Everyone, welcome to the Rough on Yacht Press. A word with Kellie Scott Reed, basically highlighting some of our authors that we've published, some folks we haven't yet. It's really just a nice question and answer for us to get to know different people who are doing some of the things that we like to do and introducing us to new faces in writing. Hello, sir. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Chris Mooney. I'm originally from Glasgow in Scotland. So I was born and brought up there, and I've spent the last 16 or 17 years living and writing and working in England.
No kidding. Where in England are you?
I'm in Kent, about 10 miles from London. Yeah, so it's a bit of a change from Glasgow, very much so.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you being here with us today. We're, of course, on totally different timelines.
Yes.
I think you guys are like 5 ahead, right? Well, we're in Eastern Standard Time, so it's noon here. It's our afternoon, so it's
I'm just after 5 o'clock for me in the evening. Yes.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking this time out on a Saturday for us. I'm just going to start with the questions. First of all, what was an early experience where you learned that language had power?
Okay. I think probably just growing up in the house that I did. My parents read to my brother and me until we could read for ourselves. I got a clear memory of both my mother and father reading quite often. So I had this sort of house and world of books, and it just opened up. Being read to, and then obviously reading myself, just opened up this whole world of stories and characters and imagination and language. So it's just, I guess, just that early exposure and having parents who sort of built in that habit of reading and that love of reading that I've continued through my whole life.
Is there a particular book that you recall in your childhood that you really attached to?
No. I thought about that in advance because I knew you were going to ask that first question. I don't have any specific memory of reading a particular book that had a big influence, or having had a particular book read to me that had a big influence. I think it was just the sort of atmosphere and the promotion and just the love of books. It was just, I think, like I said, just that early habit that really, I got the bug from a very early age, and I've not let it go.
That's awesome. All right. What is your writing kryptonite?
Right, that's an easy one. My writing kryptonite is children, for sure. It's true, because my full-time job is, I work as an English teacher in a high school. So I spend all my day with other people's children. So I don't have time during the day to read and write. And then when I come home in the evening, I've got 3 children of my own.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So they take up all my time. So my writing kryptonite is children, because I just don't have the time to do what I want to do. You know, I've got lots and lots of ideas, and I've always got works in progress in the go, but I just don't have big chunks of time where I can sit down and commit to it. Yeah.
It's funny. I was in your same boat. You know, I have 3, but mine are all now out of my home. They're all adults. So it's interesting.
That's the goal. That's living the dream, you say.
So now we do a blog. Now we can do this stuff because now they're gone. But it is incredible that really does sap a lot of, because a lot of emotional energy goes into writing, but you're utilizing that with kids. Do you see any, with your high school students, do you see a difference in how kids are now, their approach towards writing, than when you were growing up?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, if you're comparing some of my students with my experience personally, I find it frustrating that lots of the students don't read for pleasure. And obviously with the subject that I teach, you can see quite quickly in terms of the quality of verbal language and written language, which kids are reading for pleasure on a regular basis and which kids are not, because it just helps so much with so many different facets of the subject. Yeah.
All right. If you didn't write, what would you do to express your creativity?
Right. As I said, I'm a big book fan and I've always been a big reader, but I've also always been a big film fan. And then more recently, a big fan of the theatre. So that's probably my other main sort of leisure interest is films and theatre. So probably something within that industry, but it would have to be behind the camera. I would be too shy and too self-conscious to do something in front of the camera. That's why I spend my whole life hiding behind my books. I couldn't put myself out there in that way to be exposed like that.
Is there anything that has excited you in terms of film recently, where you've noticed something is like super well written? For example, I'm very much I love theater and movies as well. I'm more like the front of the camera type of thing. I have the opposite problem. I love to be in front of a camera. I'm ridiculous. Right. So I, for example, love like Breaking Bad is my obsession, the TV show, because how well written it is. Is there something that you like that you find extremely well written that you've noticed lately?
Yeah, not recently, but if you're saying Breaking Bad is your top TV show, I always would suggest that The Sopranos is my top favorite. I love it.
Yeah.
Something that I saw recently was actually on Sunday. I saw the recent adaptation of Macbeth.
Yes, that was so good.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it until Sunday because I was it's got a very limited release here. So I was trying to find a cinema that showed it because I wanted to see it on the big screen. So that's my favorite play. And that's one of the texts that I get to teach at work, which is great. And I'm a big Shakespeare fan, and Macbeth is my top favorite. So I went to see it on Sunday, and it was just terrific. I think you could tell within the first 10 minutes, this is going to be special, really special.
It was special. I was really surprised because I've seen it on stage and in different ways forever. I thought the interpretation that the actors did was incredible. It felt really natural.
Yes, and everything was, what I loved about it was the production was really minimalist. So the focus was very much on the language and the interactions between the characters. I loved that. As a kind of Shakespeare and Macbeth purist, I loved that focus just on the original text.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I went in thinking that Frances McDormand would be the best because she is terrific. And I was a bit suspicious of how Denzel Washington was going to be, but I actually came out thinking she was good without being great, but I thought he was terrific. Yeah.
I agree. And I can't remember, was it Duncan, the character, the guy who played Duncan?
Brendan Gleeson, the Irish guy.
Fantastic.
Yeah, perfectly cast, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. So we're talking about movies, but it's writing.
Yeah, Shakespeare's the greatest writing of all time.
Yeah, it was so great. And to see those interpretations, and you're right, Denzel Washington, I sometimes think is a bigger star than any role he could be in sometimes.
Yes.
So I was worried he was going to overshadow the text with his Denzelness, but he was so great. He was so great. Yeah. Terrific. Okay, cool. And what is the most difficult part of your process? Now, I know we have the kids, but when you're in the writing mode and you're there, what's the most difficult part of your process?
Yeah, apart from the kids are currently locked in the bedroom next door with snacks and screens and a threat not to interrupt. I think the most difficult part for me is if it's a longer piece, so a novella or a really long short story or a novel, I find some of the editing to be quite tedious, where you're rereading the same pages over and over again. And sometimes you're doing it so much and so often, and it's the same words over and over again. And you just get to a point where you can't tell what is good and bad because it's right in front of you. So I find that difficult with longer pieces to edit my own work successfully. Yeah, that's probably the most difficult thing for me. And obviously finding the time, if it is a longer piece, finding those big chunks of time to sit down 40, 50, 60,000 words to go over that and reread it and edit it is difficult.
Yeah, there seems to be in part of the process of writing for me. I have a very hard time doing long pieces because of my attention span. I lose interest in myself fairly quickly. So if you have a longer piece and you're just like, oh, there I go again. I'm rereading this again. That's interesting.
Yes.
All right. So here's your surprise question.
Okay.
What is something that you find makes you feel free? So I say it's kind of a weird question, but I'm trying recently to look at things in my life and sort them by what gives me a sense of freedom in my day to day. Like, for example, for me, it's walking. I love to walk outside. I feel completely unhindered. It's me alone in the world. Is there something in your life that sets you free from your day to day drudgery?
Something, I think in a general sense, it's more when I have those rare moments where I'm not having to think about work, I'm not having to think about the kids and chores and all that stuff that kind of chews up time. I think that those rare moments where you have time to yourself and you have that freedom, as you said, to say, well, hold on a minute, I've got a certain period of time here and I can choose to do within reasonable boundaries. I've got the freedom to choose to do something or go somewhere. And I'm trying to learn as I get older to recognize those moments when I have them, because they are so rare, rather than sort of think about it afterwards and think, well, I had a couple of hours there and I sort of wasted it on doing something tedious. It's, I think, trying to recognize those moments when I have them and say, right, I've got a couple of hours here, or I've got a couple of days here where I can make my own choices and do my own thing. I think that's important.
It is. And what's funny is, I don't know if you know, Tiffany and I work together at our day job. That's how she has had this dream, and we work this horribly tedious job out all day. And we were having slow times at work. And so she started telling me about this little dream. I'm like, why aren't you doing this? We have nothing else to do. So we
literally nothing.
So we have this weird thing. And I think Tiffany will agree about the freedom thing. Even though we're working really hard, and she's working 10 times as hard as anybody else on our press, it's freeing. We have so much fun doing it, and it's laughing and joyous. So I'm glad you have found some place to be free, just those little moments, because just capturing them doing something you want. It can even be labor. It can be whatever, but awesome.
Yeah, I don't think it really matters what it is. I think, like you say, you're doing the press, and that's a complete optional choice. That's something that you're invested in, I guess, on an emotional level that you enjoy, and you don't see it as a tedium. I think that's
it isn't. Absolutely. It's so fun.
Because I wouldn't do it if I saw it as tedious. I'm just going to tell you right now. Just be like, nah, this isn't for me. I got to figure something else out.
But we get to meet people like you, which is also fantastic. This has been so much fun. You're the first person we've interviewed.
Oh, really? Oh,
yes, wow. The inaugural.
Oh, I'm glad you told me that at the end rather than the beginning. I would have been even more nervous.
No, this has been awesome. And I really appreciate your time. This is going to be uploaded. We're going to figure out how that all works soon.
Sure.
I'm not sure when it will be, but I'll email you when yours is coming up.
Okay, great. No, I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for the time and for the opportunity. Thank you.
It's so much fun. Oh, and by the way, is there anything you're working on? Send it our way, but even plug it if you're working on anything.
Plug it now or plug it
right now?
So my my debut collection of short stories was published in November 2020 by Bridge House. It's called Whiskey for Breakfast, and it's available wherever you get your books. So I'm hoping over the next 12 to 18 months or so, I'm working with the same publisher on a second collection, which will involve a novella, and about 24 short stories. So that's more or less finished from a sort of first edit point of view. And then
Fantastic.
my main bigger project at the minute is I'm trying to sort of step up in stages. So first one was the collection of short stories, second one was the novella and the short stories, and then the next logical step is the dreaded novel. I'm trying to chip away at that whenever I get the time. Yeah.
Well, that's great. We do have a book club. So now that I know that that short story book is out, we'll be considering different things. This is awesome. Thank you so much.
Great. No, thank you. Thanks very much.
Have a great
Thank you,
one.
Christopher.
Thank you,
Take
Christopher.
care. Bye.
Have a great
Bye.
night.
Bye.
Bye.